Welcome to episode 277 of KT Confidential, the real estate podcast. We're talking everything about moving and giving you some great tips if you're planning a move. Let's go. Got right.
Rolling.
Moving. Everybody's moving.
All right.
If you watched last week, we talked about bidding wars.
I'm going to take my vest off so it doesn't look like we've recorded two in a row. Hopefully nobody listens to that part.
Right.
New day.
It's a
new podcast.
Day, a new dawn,
new outfit.
A new life.
So today we are talking about moving tips.
And not the kind you'll find in your average blog.
I mean, it's hard because most blogs, those are common tips. So I always try to think outside of the norm and try to come
outside of the box, the moving box.
Maybe I should have used that. I tried to avoid using normal things everywhere, including that.
Oh, that's because you're not very normal.
So how are you?
Actually, that's one of my, nobody cares.
I'm bad at asking people how they are. So I'm asking you, how are you? Answer the question.
Now, are you asking me because you feel that you're bad at it and you should do more of it? Or
and I
you
care.
Genuinely give a shit?
Both.
Okay. No, I'm doing great. How are you?
That's great. I really don't care.
I know.
No, I do. I genuinely do. And sometimes people will ask me questions and then my brain doesn't process things properly and then I forget to ask them the same question back.
Right.
So that's hard for me.
Also, remembering what people actually said to you is hard for you.
I'm going to go, I think I have maybe something like ADHD or something.
I've been telling you that for years.
I know. I need to get checked.
You should look into microdosing with mushrooms.
I'm not doing that stuff.
Apparently that helps a lot of people.
Maybe. All right.
Speaking of one of the moving tips.
Doing drugs while you're moving?
That could probably be fun.
It might help because it's not a fun process.
Outside of the box, one of my tips, Frogbox. I love Frogbox. What is Frogbox? They deliver containers, essentially. I don't know what you would call them, those plastic bins. You fill up your bins, and when you move and unpack them, they take the bins away. So I
don't see the value to it. I know you've always been a big fan of the service.
Here's the value to it. You don't have to deal with taping. You don't have to deal with all the cardboard. How many boxes do you need? Whatever. The other benefit is that it forces you to unpack.
Well, that's what I was going to say is, well, what if a lot of people don't unpack? Maybe they don't want to unpack.
Well, then I would suggest those are things that you may not need.
Probably. And there's another tip is use this as an opportunity to purge and maybe have somebody else help you. There are a lot of people out there that struggle. My mother-in-law doesn't listen to the podcast, so I'm going to say this, but they're in the process of moving and she likes to keep things. And Alicia will go over there sometimes and help start.
They bought a house?
No, they're going to sell first, but we're trying to get their house ready.
Are they at least using you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, since your mother didn't,
I know.
I was wondering.
Well, it was funny because my mom came for dinner and she's like, "Can you make me beef Wellington? You made it for your father a few times." And I'm like, "That's because he's sold with me a few times." Anyways, so Alicia will go over and she'll put things in the garbage and then leave and then come back another day and the things that were in the garbage are no longer in the garbage. So people struggle with getting rid of stuff.
Right.
But it's important too. You can't hold on to everything forever. So move on.
It's also a great time to actually sell some of those things and make a few dollars because now you're going to spend money on moving.
Yes.
Why not make the amount of money by selling stuff that you can now use for your moving expenses?
Yes. Well, we sold a house recently. They actually close in a few days. And their move is quite long, or quite far rather, a few hours. And they didn't realize how expensive it was going to be to move some of their very heavy furniture. So now they're like, can we just give it away? Right. So stuff like that, people need to take into consideration in advance.
Yes.
Yes.
Having a lot of moving supplies. So even if you are using a service like a Frogbox, or if you go and you buy a whole bunch of bins at Canadian Tire or wherever, bubble wrap,
Moving blankets.
moving blankets.
We bought a big box of them from Uline. That was a pretty good deal.
That was a great deal.
And they're good blankets. I've used them several times.
They're great blankets. Yeah. And they'll have multi-purpose down the road.
For sure. Yeah, you can use them for many things.
Those are actually great for garage sales too, to lay out, to put other things.
You could even have a picnic on it. It's fairly thick.
How romantic.
Be comfortable.
Ooh, Adrian, I love your moving blanket.
It's so comfortable and plush. One big tip I have for homeowners that I feel like when people sell their house, whether intentional or not, they start to disconnect from it as they plan for their next chapter in their life. And they start to neglect things around the house a little bit. You know, specifically things like maintaining the outdoors, like the lawns and the gardens. And this is why we do revisits with buyers closer to closing, to make sure that the house is in more or less the same condition as when they purchased it. So just be mindful about taking care of the house. If it's going to be vacant, make sure you check in on it. Make sure your temperature is set to a reasonable temperature, because if it gets super humid, your floors could start to buckle or, you know, have these unnecessary expenses and make for a bad experience for the buyers who are probably very excited to move in. So cut your grass, take care of the inside and the outside.
Well, it could lead to the buyers objecting to some of those things prior to closing.
For sure.
Saying, hey, I don't want to close on this place until that's rectified.
Yeah.
Or we're going to hold back X amount of dollars because of this.
Yeah.
Now, you had a tip about Canada Post.
Well, it seems like a simple thing, and it's probably on a lot of blogs or whatever. I mean, a lot of people probably suggest get your mail forwarding done, but not a lot of people seem to do it. And we experience this a lot with Renty, our property management company, with landlords too, if they're moving and renting out their current house.
You just dropped a bomb here, because we haven't officially announced Renty.
Well,
So by the way, for those of you listening, KT Property Management is now Renty.
Renty, officially. Did I know we haven't talked about that?
No, we haven't.
Well, this is coming out in March, and that was my anticipated kind of go live date. That's what I have on the website.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's counting down to the beginning of March.
Okay.
So anyways, it happens a lot in that side too, or landlords are forgetting to do it. And I think a lot of people, when I talk to them and say, hey, have you set up your mail forwarding? Have you set up your mail forwarding? They're like, no, but we've called everybody and changed all our addresses. Well, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be people you forget. There's going to be people you don't know.
Poor Aunt Betty sending you the Christmas card.
Yeah. So just set up mail forwarding, pay for a year. At that point, you will have probably gone through anybody that's ever going to mail you something, and you can get it updated. But it's a real pain in the butt. As a real estate agents, we sometimes will help and go pick it up and make sure it gets to where it's supposed to go. And that's not fun, and it's really unnecessary. So get your mail forwarding set up.
Some more tips for the actual moving day. Don't make the boxes too heavy. Your movers will not appreciate that. And if you can, move your boxes into the closest practical area to the front door.
Well, you're paying by the hour.
You're paying by the hour. So if your boxes are nicely lined up in the front of the house, so the movers can just come in, grab the box, load it into the truck, you're saving a whole whackload of their time and effort. They'll appreciate it, which makes the move nicer.
Would you use a service where they actually pack for you?
I know a lot of people that do, and
I'm not sure how you feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want them packing my wife's underwear drawer, but the kitchen, go nuts.
Yeah.
You want to pack my plates, my dishes,
then you can hold them liable for it as well. Maybe.
Sure, I don't know about that, but there are a lot of services. Well, people that move out of country use those type of things a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you're moving from Milton to Oakville or you're moving within the same town or city, how often that's used. But there are people with disabilities, that maybe they can't tackle that on their own. There's people that are just older and can't deal with it or don't want to or can afford to not have to.
Right.
So those are common services now, and it's good to explore. If you're able to pack your own and you're trying to save money, obviously pack your own shit, right?
Yeah.
Get the bubble wrap, get the boxes, get the bins, whatever. But moving it to the front of the house is going to save everybody a lot of time and money, and it goes greatly appreciated by the movers.
Some of those movers are really impressive, especially moving like large appliances and stuff like that, or pianos. Like, it's crazy how they can just pick things up.
Not everybody moves pianos.
No,
there are
agreed.
specific movers for pianos, and depending on the type of piano, you don't necessarily want just anybody handling that piano.
Right.
Pianos are a pain in the butt.
They are.
Pool tables also.
Yeah, unless you're like a real avid pool player, you may be better to include it with a sale.
Right.
And get a new one. I don't know how heavy they are, but I imagine it's slate, right?
Yeah.
So you're very heavy.
Well, if you have a good one.
Right. I was going to say pets. Be mindful of your pets. And I have a personal story from when we moved as children. We were younger. We moved once in our life, my life anyways, when we were kids. And shortly after we moved, we realized we couldn't find the cat. So we looked everywhere, looked all through the house, everywhere. There was one air duct return that was left open. So we thought, maybe she got in here. We looked in there. She wasn't in there. Eventually, like 2 or 3 days later.
Forgot her at the old house.
No. We found her I think we found her in my parents' dresser in one of the drawers. I don't know how she got in there or how we didn't hear her, but there she was.
How long was she in the drawer for?
At least 24 hours, probably closer to 48 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, long time.
No food, no water, no litter
food,
box,
no water. She
nothing.
was resilient. She lived till 17. She was a good cat. Yeah, Whiskers was her name.
How fitting.
Yes, very creative.
Yeah. Well, my family pet when I was a kid was Mr. Bubbles.
Mr. Bubbles, yes, I remember.
Yorkshire Terrier.
So maybe, have somebody take care of your pet for the day, because it's a very stressful process.
Yeah.
So
what about kids?
Kids, if they're not old enough to help, but I think at most ages you can get them to help somehow, maybe, but it's going to slow you down. So if you would prefer not to be slowed down, then find somebody to watch them.
Have a couple of bins that have first of all, you got to stay hydrated and you got to eat. So have snacks, have Gatorade.
Yes.
Have things to keep energy levels up for people of all ages. And then have a bin with supplies that you're going to need. Paper towel, toilet paper, cleaning supplies.
Toys to keep the kids busy while you're trying to unpack. Like, make sure that you know where certain things are. iPads
are gold when it comes to moving day with kids.
Yeah.
So if they have an iPad, let them use it for the day. If you don't have an iPad, buy a used one.
I think movers are worth their weight in gold too, because they'll do things like reassemble your bed.
Sure.
And get it all ready to go. Because who wants to be doing that at the end of the day?
Hiring movers is actually more cost effective than a lot of people think, because there are still buddies of mine that say, "Hey, I'm moving. Can you? I got the pizza and beer. I rented a U-Haul. Can you come and help me?" And
I had a buddy stop talking to me because I said no.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. And he told me years later, he was like, that really hurt me. I'm like, you're a fucking adult. Hire a mover. And like, I'll help people if they're in a pinch. Like, if they did hire a mover and they got shafted last minute, yeah, I'll help you. But if you're just being cheap, if you're just being cheap, I'm probably not going to help you, because I don't want to break my back over you moving. Because at this age, that happens very easily, just picking something up the wrong way.
Right.
So, maybe for myself, I'm going to hire movers if I move again. I did last time. But no, I'm not helping.
When I moved from Oakville,
I'd rather give them $100
to Milton
to contribute towards the move.
That's funny. I don't know if you remember how much furniture I had in my old house, but I remember
your dining room table.
Single young guy.
Yeah.
And I had a couch. I had my beanbag chair, which I still have.
You do? I
Oh,
love
yeah.
that. That was a great chair.
Yeah, I got a new cover for it. Steve Chiquetto ordered the same one.
Oh,
He
really?
fucking loves it.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Shout out to Corduroys if you're looking for the...
Was it a corduroy material? I don't remember.
Originally, I think that's how they got their name, was the cover looked like corduroy, and you can still get corduroy covers, but now they have a whole bunch of different covers that you can put on it. And he ordered the same size as mine, the king size.
Mhm.
And that thing, while
It
you
turns
sat
into a
in it,
bed, right?
you take off the cover and it turns into a king size, or I don't know what, maybe a queen size bed.
Okay.
And it's comfortable,
Mhm.
especially when it's a chair.
Nice.
Anyway, so I had those two pieces and my bed.
Right. Did you hire? You hired a mover.
And I hired a mover. Yeah. 2 men in a truck.
Yeah, me too.
The people that care.
Is that what their saying is?
Their jingle.
Oh,
2 men in a truck.
I don't think I've
The
ever heard
movers
it.
who care.
That clearly works.
Yeah. It's like Audio Video 2001. Or Pizza Nova. Pizza. They all have good jingles. Like Renty. My Renty.
You're going to get us sued.
By who?
Who is that one? It's like
Menon?
Menon is. Yeah.
That's what it was, Ian? By
Did
Menon.
we establish whether or not they have rights over that tune?
They don't. Nobody even uses that product. Even exists. That's like from the 1980s.
I don't remember.
Anybody that's under the age of 30 won't even know what we're talking about.
Right.
It's also not our target demographic for that company.
This is true. All right. There you have it. Any other tips for people planning to move?
No, like having a schedule is important. I think what happens is when people move into the home, they end up not
I think,
very-
what do we do now?
Exactly. So having a schedule, if you're moving on Sunday, mark it in your calendar, have a family schedule, put it right on the fridge. Monday night is the kitchen, and unpack everything in the kitchen. Get rid of those boxes, whatever kind of boxes you use. Don't delay it. I go and visit clients months after they've moved in, and they'll still have one of the quote unquote spare bedrooms
Yeah.
loaded with boxes and stuff. And life,
If you don't do it right
life
away,
takes over.
you're just not going to do it.
Exactly. So
Another thing I would recommend for people to do for the people moving into your house that you've sold, so for the buyers, the sellers,
the new owners,
the previous owners should do this for the new owners. Provide some information. Provide them with all the codes to your existing stuff. I know they can reset it, but it just makes it easier.
Ooh, that reminds me.
Or reset it yourself.
I wanted to make a checklist that the team
Yes.
gives our sellers to fill out for.
Yes. And then for certain, like now with tech devices, you might need to remove your access to it. I don't know what the right term would be. Like for Nest thermostats or smart locks, you may have to do a factory reset on it so the new owners can actually access it.
Otherwise, the new owners are going to be bugging their realtor. Their realtor is going to be bugging your realtor, and your
Right.
realtor is going to be bugging you to get garage code. Where's the mailbox?
Mailbox is another big one. It's always where's the
shut off valves?
Yeah.
What's that noise?
And then
Where's the remote? How do you turn on the fireplace?
provide some instruction for things that you think people may appreciate assistance with.
Even going into things like the neighbors, what their names are on either side of them.
Yeah.
Next
with their permission. I'm sure most people
next
wouldn't
door
object.
is Adrian. He's a dick.
The guy beside him's even worse.
Yeah.
There was another one I was going to say. I've forgotten. Go figure.
So my last things were preparing the home for you and your family. I highly recommend replacing the furnace filter and having the air ducts cleaned right away. That's always high priority for me, for anybody moving into a home of any age, even if the home's a year old or 20 years old, 30 years old, whatever. Get the ducts cleaned, replace the furnace filter right away. So on one of your visits to the property before closing, make sure you know the size of filter. Some filters you have to order or they're not readily accessible. It's not the typical 16 by 20 by 1.
Mm-hmm.
So do that. And same thing with any other filters in the home, like the water filters, things of that nature. And some of them do take a few weeks to get.
Yeah.
And what happens is sellers, some of them start to neglect things like replacing the fridge filter because it's $60 and they just did it a few months ago. The water tastes fine.
I'm guilty. I don't do it often. I often forget.
At home?
Yeah. Sometimes it'll go a year. Where
A year?
You should. Well, my filter is twice a year, I think. I don't remember.
Yeah. I'll be replacing the water cartridges at the new office.
Well, mine is only ice, so it doesn't get used a ton, right?
Right.
There's
You
no
cheaped
water
out
dispenser.
and didn't get the water.
It was $500. I didn't want it. Anyways, I should have got it. The thing I was going to say is, and actually, I'd like to put out a poll to the audience, viewers and listeners. Would you share your contact information with the new owners?
Can I answer that?
I think I know your answer. Can I write it down? You probably knew what I wrote.
You wrote no.
I wrote no.
Yeah, that was my answer. I am not giving my personal information to the new owners.
I know a lot of people that want to.
Here's my recommendation. Set up some kind of third or set up another email.
You're easy to track down, though.
Oh, me personally, yes. I'm giving advice to the normal people.
Oh. So you think on average you're going to be hounded?
Actually, it's funny you say that because, I've been selling some of the furniture. By the way, folks, over the next few podcasts, over the next few weeks, that must be Christopher or somebody that...
I don't see any cars come in.
You're going to be seeing the background of this podcast change because over the next few weeks, we are transitioning to the new KT office, the new KT headquarters.
That's right.
And
new setup.
There's going to be a little transitional period before we move into the new studio space, which is going to look amazing.
Next week, we may be recording here, just you and I sitting in chairs with nothing around us.
We might not even have the chairs here because these are going to the new office next week too with the new sales desks coming in. Anyway, the fuck was I going to say now?
Oh, it was Jenny.
Off track. She was getting something.
Yeah.
Set up an email address.
That's not a bad idea.
That you can give to the new owners that you don't really use for anything else, like just a random Hotmail, Gmail, whatever. And that's the only purpose for it is for communication with anything to do with your old home.
Yes, good idea.
So that way you're not being dickish.
But I am curious because there's a lot. I have one client right now who's saying, hey, can you give my contact information to the buyers? I'd love to chat with them and help them, figure out how to use the hot tub. And so there's different mindsets behind it.
And everybody's going to be like when I bought the cottage. These folks thought they were coming over for barbecues every summer. Like, oh, yeah, when we're in the neighborhood, we'll stop in. Maybe we can have a barbecue. And it's like, okay.
Call first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't buying a friend, just a piece of property.
And if anyone else has any good tips for moving, please let us know what they are.
Yeah, actually, our best tips
come from the audience.
Always come from the audience.
They're moving more often than us. Although we move a lot of people, we don't personally move a lot.
Right. Otherwise, we wouldn't be neighbors anymore.
That's right. There you have it.
Okay, bye.
Ciao.
If you've got some great moving tips, we'd love to hear your comments. Our best tips come from you, the audience. So leave us a comment. Let us know. Make sure you subscribe. Show us some love. We'll see you next week.